Hi, this is Chico Resch. You are listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast on the Primetime Radio Network.
Happy Devils Wednesday to everybody watching. Welcome to Game Day Live, presented by the Let's Go Devils Podcast Network and the Primetime Radio Studios, along with Ann Crew Brew. My name is Vinnie, Parise, and I am here with Shorts Guy as we are happy to get you set for New Jersey Devils hockey as they take on the Washington Capitals. Welcome to all fans watching on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, X Live, and Twitch. The Devils are looking to bounce back from a tough loss to the Boston Bruins as they take on the Washington Capitals. Shorts Guy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Vinny. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all the listeners. I feel like it's been forever since I've been on, so it's good to see you. Good to hear from you. And it's good to see that the the Devils are getting back at it tonight. I kind of thought it was funny. There were 26 teams playing last night, and the Devils were not one of them. In one of those
weird.
heavy nights. Yeah, it was weird. One of those heavy nights of the league, and we were not one of those teams. But I think we're one of the only ones tonight.
Yes, there are 2 games tonight, 4 teams. 2 of them played yesterday. The other one that didn't play is the Ducks. So they kind of are on the second half of the first. They're playing against a team that's coming off the second half of a back-to-back. So the Devils, they're not great as this team playing in the second half. But tonight they get to be the team that's fresh playing against the team that played yesterday, the Washington Capitals. But before we dive into that, I got to ask you, what were you watching last night? The Devils weren't on. Were you taking in some other hockey, or did you just take a night off?
What was I doing last night? Oh, I was sitting. I had ski club in my school, so I was chaperoning the ski club. And at the mountain up here, the mountain up here by us. So that's what I was doing all night last night. I had to think about it because I was like, "What the hell did I do last night?" Yeah, so that's what I did. I was at the ski resort last night, just doing my chaperone duties. What were you up to?
Very cool. So yesterday I was doing a little bit of prep for the show, kind of by watching the Washington Capitals. They took on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, that's a big matchup in the NHL world over the last, 15, 20 years with Crosby and Ovechkin. I always feel weird only bringing up Crosby and Ovechkin because you could make a legit argument that Evgeny Malkin has been right there as good as both of them over the last 20 years.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he's clearly in third place, but he's one of those guys where he's like the marquee face of the franchise over the last 20 years if he's on any other team. But, I enjoyed watching it. Both Ovechkin and Crosby had a power play goal in the game. The Capitals won 4-3. My biggest takeaway was that Darcy Kemper started the game. So now I'm drawing a blank on his name, though. He made his NHL debut against the Devils a couple weeks ago, and the Devils actually lost to him. They're probably going to look to him tonight to play. I doubt they'll go Kemper second half of a back-to-back, especially since he kind of was under siege for most of the third period yesterday. The Penguins kind of brought it in the third period. So I'm excited, though. It's going to be Dawes in net against them, so should be fun.
Hunter Shepard, I think his name is.
Hunter Shepard. How could I forget that? That is correct. That is correct.
It's Hunter Shepard. I actually had that game on the radio last night, leaving the ski resort, and was listening to that, and it was, I think at that point when I got into my truck, it was 3-0 Capitals, and the Penguins had a goal called off because of an offsides, and then the Penguins wound up going to score shortly thereafter that. So it sounded like it was pretty lopsided to begin with, and then the Penguins stormed back a little bit, and I just kind of felt for little Steve as a Penguins fan that his team was just getting shelled. It's what it seemed like, at least from what I heard on the radio for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, like the Penguins, they need those points. So do the Capitals, though. And the Capitals, they put up that 4-0 lead, and they kind of went into a shell. It kind of was like the rest of the game they were trying to, not lose. And that never works out for teams. That really never works out for teams.
It rarely works.
And you give guys like Sidney Crosby, Jake Gensel, Evgeny Malkin, they all got their points and on the power play. I think Sid's goal is from Gensel and Malkin. So, these guys start feeling good about themselves. They're going to be under siege the rest of the game. That kind of ended up being the case. The Capitals, they never really felt like they were going to ever get it back to a 2-goal lead once it was 4-3. The Penguins just kept pushing and pushing, and Kemper played okay. But, that means they'll see Shepherd tonight as far as the Devils. But the big story from Washington tonight, outside of going to the backup goalie on the second half of a back-to-back, Max Pacioretty is going to be making his Washington Capitals debut today.
Wow.
Very big news. Over his career, Pacioretty's been one of the better goal scorers in the NHL. I'm not sure what the case is going to be for him coming back in the middle of his 30s. He's been in the league for a long time. You might remember last year, similar situation. He made his debut with the Hurricanes, and then a couple games in, he blew out his Achilles, and I think it was his Achilles, and he was done for the year, and it's obviously lingered. Should be fun. Should be very, very fun.
Yeah, it definitely should be fun. It's kind of like one of those mid-season acquisition type things when he's coming back in the middle of a season. You got a player that should be relatively fresh coming after the season. So we'll see what he brings. And I saw someone post in the group that it might be Dawes starting tonight.
Yes, it's going to be Nico Dawes tonight.
It's going to be Nico Dawes. There we go. And he didn't play too bad the game he got the other day. So we'll see if maybe he can continue that run of play, and hopefully get us a win and to do better than when we faced the Capitals at home a couple weeks ago. That game that I was at when we saw Hunter Shepherd in that wild shootout of a game that was something like 3-0, 4-0 the end of the first, and then 4-4. Something stupid like that. I can't remember. There were so many damn goals in that game. It was just lows and highs, and then back down to lows all the way through the floor. It was just. That was a wild game. I hope to see a little bit more of a controlled game tonight from the Devils, not letting up so many goals, maybe taking the scoring the first goal and taking the lead and taking command right away would be nice. So we'll see. It's the Devils time's running out. It's January. Time's running out. We need these points, especially these Metro Division points. These are so critical right now.
Yes, they would be. And, Dawes, he played well in his game. Obviously, the Capitals are a tad bit better than the Columbus Blue Jackets, but the Blue Jackets, they come at you hard.
They do.
And this is the second half of a back-to-back. But I mean, that game, the Devils kind of saw what they could do if they just get pucks on Shepherd, and they kind of folded in the third period of that game. I remember tough, very bad, no good game. Tonight, Graham Clark is making his NHL debut. They finally called him up, and after dominating. A lot of his time in the AHL. He's finally, after all these years, getting the call-up. He's going to make his NHL debut tonight in Washington. I do want to side note, his brother Brant Clark was called back up by the Los Angeles Kings today, too. And I just think it's got to be so cool for the parents knowing both of their sons got called up, and they're going to be playing. Brant has made his NHL debut already, where Graham has not. But, both of them back with their NHL teams. Part of me thinks Graham doesn't stick, but Brant does with the Kings. He's a solid defenseman. I'm pretty sure he's on their top pair already, right away from being called up. I think injuries and whatnot led to him being sent back down or whatever. But both of them back in the NHL starting today. Should be fun to see how he fits in with the group once they start taking line rushes before the game starts. But, there's not going to be Timo Meier. So he's going to be missing the game. There's no update on him in the long term, but it should be fun to see how they fit Graham Clark in Timo Meier's spot. And I'm not certain he's going to be in the top 6 right off the bat. But honestly, if they put him with Mercer and McLeod on the third line, I actually wouldn't hate that one bit. Should be fun to see though.
Yeah, it's that would be a perfect third line, like you just mentioned. And seeing him come into the game tonight, hopefully make a little bit of an impact. I'm sure he's going to have some nerves going into his first game, and knowing his brother's getting called up too. Like you said, that's a great that's a great night for your parents. But at the same time, is LA playing home or away tonight?
I believe LA's at. No, am I wrong? They're not playing today. I'm dumb.
Okay.
They were both called up today. Brant will have to wait till tomorrow to play, though.
Okay. So
they
even
lost
better
to the Kings yesterday.
Even better for their parents.
I'm dumb. They are the Kings. They lost to the Maple Leafs.
But even better for the parents. They don't have to split their time watching, going back and forth on two different TVs, which I know that they would do because I know my parents would do that if my brother and I were in the NHL, which we're not, unfortunately. But Graham getting this call up tonight. It's good to see what he is capable of, and not for nothing, Vinny. These call ups, with the way this team is playing, with the help this team needs right now, these call ups could be ways to showcase some players that they can potentially ship out to bring in pieces that we need. So we may be seeing more of this if the Devils are starting to get desperate and needing to plug some holes and to get some pieces. We may see more players like Graham come up just to be showcased to potentially move them.
And what do you think about like getting them in the NHL, a taste of the league for if they trade other players as well? So like, let's say that McLeod rumor comes true, and he's a part of a package that goes to Calgary for Markstrom or whatever, and they need other forwards to step into the lineup. Graham Clark will already have a little bit under his belt.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's absolutely it too. That could be the other piece of this, preparing players to fill holes for potential trades to where we're going to need players to come up and step up from Utica. So yeah, that situation is there as well, and this is what the Devils have to be looking at, and this is what we as fans have to be prepared for these moves, because it's out of our control. As much as we all might like Mikey McLeod, and as we all know, Beer Baron absolutely loves Mikey McLeod. He would be absolutely devastated if McLeod was moved, but if it was going to be a good move for this team, and then someone like Graham Clark can come up, fill that role, then that's his opportunity.
I mean, that's all you can hope for. It just feels like the type of game, like second half of a back-to-back for the Capitals. You got this fresh legs in the Devils, and Graham Clark's making his NHL debut. I think he might get one tonight. I don't know. I just got this strange feeling like he might get one tonight. The way Simone Nemeth came up and just played so well in his NHL debut. I'm starting to wonder, like, is there something in Utica that they got really going well there, where guys who have high ceilings, they come up to the show and they have a little extra jump to their game? I don't know. I'm just excited to see how it goes, though.
Well, I mean, you're going to think that anyone that's going to come up from Utica is going to have a little bit of a jump in their step, because as much as the Devils may not be looking fantastic right now, this is the team high ceiling, and these guys are going to want to be part of it, because we can see that this Devils team has the potential to win a cup in the next couple of years, multiple cups potentially. And I want to say that all these younger players see this potential as well, and they want to be, that third line, fourth line guy that's going to be called up when they need it, or is going to get that roster spot in the year that the Devils finally do it again. So there's a lot of incentive for these young guys to come up and play well and be like, no, keep me here, because this team is on the move, and this team is a cup-winning team. And I want to be here for that, instead of getting shipped off to somewhere like Calgary or Anaheim, which would just suck. If we've seen it before. Players get traded from their team, and then their former team winds up winning the cup, and it's like, oh man, that's gotta be the worst thing. It's shipped off at the trade deadline, and watch your teammates all win the cup.
Yeah, that would absolutely devastate me if that happened. Now, there are some people in the chat that are a little mad that I brought up the trading McLeod thing. You can't ignore the thing that's going on with the World Juniors. You just can't. That has to be in the back of your mind when thinking about, whether or not McLeod is a good trade tool, because right now he's a great player. He does a lot of things that really help this New Jersey. His value is as high as it will ever be in the NHL. But there could be a day. It could come tomorrow. It could come in a week. It could come in a year, where he is suspended indefinitely for his involvement in what went on with the 2018 World Junior team. And if you're the Devils and you know that there's a chance of that, you might want to act now. I'm not saying what I would do or wouldn't do. It's just got to be something that's got to be in the back of Tom Fitzgerald's head. It just has to be. That's how any smart GM would.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I want to say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the trading of Mikey McLeod might be like the trading of Coleman. It could be a very similar feeling, where everyone loved Coleman, and we shipped him out, and he wound up winning a cup. Good for him. We got some good pieces back for him, but this could wind up being one of those things, and it sucks, but that's the business of the game. That's just the business of the game.
It is. And, the only difference is Blake Coleman is, by all accounts, not guilty of anything seriously, that'll get him
Yeah.
suspended indefinitely anytime soon.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. And Blake Coleman, that trade worked out. They got Dawson Mercer
Yeah.
or I think it turned into Muhammadulin, which was a big piece going into the Timo Meyer trade. So, there's
Yeah.
all sorts of cause and effect that came from that. But I don't know. The Mikey McLeod thing is real tough for me. I hope that it all ends up where he can be found, as somebody that is not a bad human being, and he's able to be a part of the New Jersey Devils for a long time because he wins tons of faceoffs. He's outstanding defensively, and he comes up clutch in big games offensively. It seems like he scored the
Yeah.
biggest goal of the Devils season last year when he put them up 1-0 in Game 7 against the Rangers shorthanded. That is the biggest goal that any Devil player scored last year, and I hope he's one of those guys that gets to stay around, but it's got to be in the back of Tom Fitzgerald's mind in terms of trying to better this team so that when you go into a game against the Washington Capitals, you know who your goalie is going to be. A little,
Hmm.
you're a little more confident in how things are going to go. I don't know. There's just a lot to consider right now.
Yeah, and Fitzgerald as the Devils GM, he's always doing something, thinking about how he can better this team. And it's just the nature of the business. It's we all love Mikey McLeod, but I think there's only a small handful of players in this team that are not tradable, that are not movable. And I think we all know it's Jack, it's Luke, it's Nico, it's Timo, and from there on out, I think it could potentially be anyone else could be moved. But I think that those four names in particular, they're unmovable. But everyone else, I think, in order to better this team and to bring a Stanley Cup back to New Jersey, hopefully multiple cups, it's he'll do anything. I think he'll do anything at this point.
I agree. I would add Brat to your list of
Brat, yes. I knew I was
untradeable.
forgetting someone. I knew
Here's the
I
thing:
knew I was forgetting someone.
when I say untradeable, I don't think anybody's untradeable.
Hmm.
I wasn't around yet, but Wayne Gretzky was traded in his prime.
He was. Yeah, that's
I've
true.
seen Tom Brady switch teams. I've seen Peyton Manning switch teams. Oh, we have
Hmm.
now seen Shohei Ohtani switch teams. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing is impossible in the
You got a
sports
point.
world in terms of player movement.
No,
But
you have a point. You have a
I,
point.
they'd have to be getting something pretty sweet back if we're moving off of Jack
Mhm.
Hughes or Nico Hischier or Timo Meyer, guys like that. Um, these are all really good players who have been really good players for a long time and have proven it. Meyer's dealing with some injuries this season a little bit, but man, I love
Yep.
his game. He's just a
So do I.
bulldozer out there, and he scores goals. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Meyer's game. I always have been.
So am I, and we need more bulldozers like him because there are times that this team has looked really soft and has not reacted in ways that they should have physically. In games that I think would have helped the team to potentially get a win. We need players like him. We need at least one more, two more. Sam always says to be Folitics, to be Folitics. We need that. We need that player that's going to step up. Kind of like Brendan Smith did, and jump in there and defend Nico and do what he had to do. But we definitely need more of that. We definitely need at least one more player like Timo that's willing to get into those ugly areas and to potentially stand up for his teammates when absolutely necessary.
Do you agree with Tony in the chat when he says he'd rather have Zetterlund than Meyer?
No.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. But I was just curious on your thoughts on that because I was like, my initial thought was like, no, but then I'm like,
Yeah.
am I the only one that thinks no? But yeah, no.
Yeah.
For everybody watching, I'd like you to get your predictions in the chat right now. We will read some of
It's
them
that
out loud.
time.
We're getting close to that time. Um, but before we get into our predictions, Shorts guy, is there someone on the Devils right now that maybe isn't someone we've talked about so far that you're like, we need this guy to step up big tonight when they play the Washington Capitals?
Hmm. Uh,
If you need a minute to think, I got one right off the bat.
well, my first name to come to mind is Dawes, and step up and play and win a game for us. As far as a skater, someone that's got to step it up, I would have to think about a skater that would have to step it up. I mean, that I think Jack's got to get back on that. I think Jack would have to step it up. We need to win these games. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, says Nico is overdue. He scored in the most recent game against the Bruins, and he had an assist the game before. I actually have liked Nico's game over the last 2 games, but I agree with you on
Mhm.
Jack. I actually think it would be nice to see Dawes steal a win, that of course, but I think Luke Hughes can play a big role in this game against the Capitals. Just getting that offensive, um, that train rolling, like be that presence on the team that they miss without having
Mhm.
Dougie Hamilton. Before I get into the predictions again, I have one more question I want to address in the chat. Max wants to know your prediction for when the Stadium Series jersey will be released and what will it look like?
I was looking at stuff like this today. Some of the things that I've seen are about a month out from the game, which would be about late January, mid January. Which would be a month. So January 17th. I would like it sooner rather than later, and I really am nervous that the NHL is going to screw it up, and it's not going to look good. That's kind of my worry. Although they got the Winter Classic jerseys right, at least on Seattle, I liked a lot more than
Me
the
too.
Vegas one. I thought
Me
the
too.
Seattle one was done very well, and it
Me
was
too.
really looking awesome. I saw
Oh yeah.
one concept jersey today that I was kind of poking around the internet, and it was the Devils logo without the circle in black on a red jersey with some red striping, kind of like the Penguins and the Flyers were a couple years ago, just like the big numbers on the arms, the basics, just two color jerseys. I don't know if I really like that. I always wind up having a problem with a lot of the new jerseys that come out because there's so many other better things that they could do, and they just don't, and I don't know why. So I'm hoping it's soon. You know what? It really wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me if I'm looking at my calendar real quick now. So the 17th would be a month out from the game. The 17th of January would also be right after anyone who gets a two gets two pay periods a month. So that could potentially be one of those benchmarks too to see that jersey come out right around a pay period, right around when people have their paycheck, so they go and spend their money right away on that jersey. So we'll see.
That would be nice. I'm kind of thinking I have heard it's going to be red.
Mm-hmm.
And they went back and forth on whether or not it was going to be red or black, and ultimately chose red. I would love that if it's red with a black logo. That would be really cool. So that's kind of what I'm banking on. Whether there's a
Okay.
circle or not, I don't really care. Um, they haven't had, or they've had the logo no circle on the Twitter hashtag for 2 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and part of me wonders if there's a reason. Like I don't know. I've always found
And
it strange.
there's merch in the Devil's Den with just that
Yes,
logo. There is
yes,
merch. They sell a hoodie for $120 with just a one color design on it. It blows my mind. It blows my
that's
mind.
crazy.
119.99 for a one color logo on a sweatshirt. It's like, oh. As a
And
screen printer, I
people
look
have
at that.
bought it.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure people have, but as a screen printer, I look at it and I go, that hoodie takes about no time or effort to make, especially because they
Yeah.
use all automatic stuff. It's like, oh man,
Yeah, that's so true. They print money in the NHL, even the bad
I
low
know, I
level
know.
ranked teams. It's crazy. But, I think it's time we get to our predictions. Um I'll read a couple in the chat, but Shorts guy, you can actually
Okay.
go first before I read a couple of these.
Prediction. So last time the Devils played the Capitals, it was a high scoring affair. We've got two rookie goalies going in tonight, so it could potentially be another high scoring affair. And because I'm going to predict a high scoring affair, it's probably going to be a tight game. So I'm going to say 5-3 Devils tonight.
Ooh. Okay. Ted says 3-2 Devils. Joseph
Okay.
says 5-1. Selecta says 5-1 Devils. Michael says 5-2 Devils. Lucas' point streak continues. Max says 6-3 Devils in overtime. That's not possible. Let me see for some other predictions. Zach says 4-2 Devils. Chris says 3-2 good guys. Oh my goodness says 6-2 Devils. JP says 4-2 Devils. Beach says 4-3 Devils. Max says 6-3 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's been realized that you can't win 6-3 in overtime.
That would be a hell of an overtime.
It would. I mean, maybe if Jack Hughes, Nico Heischer, and Luke Hughes on the first shift combined for like a sick goal, like where they go boom, 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 just this pretty passing play. Then they can each get credited for a goal and they could win 6-3 in overtime. But I really don't see that happening.
Either that,
Um,
or you're bringing back the multi-goal arc like in pro beach hockey.
yes, yes. Or did you ever play the 3-on-3 arcade? It was on Xbox
No,
360 back in the day. There
never
was like
did.
a 3-on-3 arcade game. It was so fun. You built your team from like it was like that year. It was like NHL 08. It came out
Mm-hmm.
with NHL 08, and like it was all the best players in the league from and like an all-star form, and you would pick two forwards, a defenseman, and a goalie, and like you could choose between Crosby, Ovechkin, Malkin, Yager. The three goalies were Brodeur, Lundqvist, and I want to say DiPietro was an option.
Wow, DiPietro.
And yeah, and every puck that was dropped had a special effect, and one of them was the goal was worth 2.
Okay.
And so it was first to 10, I think. And so if you were winning 8-7 and you scored with that 2 puck, you'd win.
Yeah,
So yeah, maybe if
that's
you
cool.
start inserting goals like that in the NHL, you could win 6-3 in overtime. People in the chat are going crazy with my mention of NHL 3-on-3 arcade. That was
Nice.
fun. That was very, very fun. I enjoyed that a lot. So my prediction is that the New Jersey Devils are going to win tonight's game by a final score 6-3. I'm going to go with the 6-3 prediction that Max put in.
Okay.
I like that. Now,
Okay.
I don't think it's coming in overtime because you can't score 3 goals in overtime.
No,
I'm
you
sorry, I
cannot.
keep beating that dead horse. I apologize, Max. I know what you meant. I'm just it was funny. It was funny to me. I mean no disrespect. I do think Ovechkin gets at least 1. I
Yeah.
am rooting for him to break Wayne Gretzky's goal mark. So I would love if the Devils lost 6-3 and Ovi had a hat or won 6-3 and Ovi had a hat trick. But also when Ovechkin scores though in real time, I'll be nice and angry. In that moment, I won't want him to break the goal record, but I don't know. I'm going 6-3. I think the Devils are going to win 6-3. I'd like to see a big night from all the big boys. We have a prediction from Sam Wu, though,
Yes, we do.
before we get out of here. He believes that the Devils are going to win 7-2.
Mm.
Now, that's something, that's a Sam Wu prediction, Shorts guy, but I can see something like that happening. I'm not saying it's going to.
Yeah,
But this
but
Capitals
it's
team on the second
possible.
half of a back-to-back, yeah, it's possible.
It's possible. It is definitely possible for with 2 rookie goalies for there to be a 7-2 score, and with the offense that the Devils have, it could absolutely happen. I mean, the last game was something like 6-4, whatever that was, at the Rock. So high scoring. This could potentially be an actual Samu prediction type of game for a final score.
Yes. I mean, are you a little surprised the Capitals are where they are in the standings? Based on their roster and how they've played?
Not really.
Really?
I think I'm.
They're,
Yeah.
they're minus. They're in the goal differential category. They're minus 17. They're like right down there with some of the worst teams in the league in terms of goal differential, and they find ways to win. I just don't get this team. But you're right. They have a lot of really talented players.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a lot of talented players, and good talented players will find ways to win. You know, even with that minus 17. I mean, hell, the Islanders are minus 10 in third place Like
Yep.
it's just it's a race for who's gonna suck more to get that third place in that wild card spot. Tampa's a -8. They're just a couple points behind. We're -4, unfortunately. It's teams find a way, and they seem to be finding a way.
They do. Maybe I'm just using that as hope that the Devils will like bounce all of them and jump up in the standings. Like that's probably just what I'm doing here. But, we'll see what happens. I can't thank everybody in the chat enough, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, X, any of it. If you're watching this show, we can't thank you enough for coming in and being part of the first Devils game of 2023 with us. We thank you all so much for watching. For Sam Wu, for Short Sky, for everybody involved with the Let's Go Devils Podcast Network, I'm Vinnie Parise, and as always, let's go Devils.